What's up, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla SPY and the overall markets. I'm also going to break down what's going on with the economic calendar approaching tomorrow as we have more data coming out, not to mention some new developments in the charts for Tesla and beyond. But just note that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. Deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total, not to mention 8.1% APY on uninvested cash. Soft runs very soon in just 2 weeks, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, I just want to mention what's happening with the market. So on Tesla, despite the fact that we have a very bullish looking setup, we have an inverse head and shoulders that's forming. I just want to say that does not guarantee Tesla will break out immediately because we have this tough resistance to watch for. At this 230 area, okay, Tesla has this resistance, which has been slowing it down so far. And also at 235, every time we hit this since I would say like the mid area of August, we've been just rejecting off of it. So it's very important to remember that because this is a very, very tough area. So the question is, can Tesla break this or not? And what's going to happen approaching FOMC? I'll be talking about this in the next couple of minutes before I break down the charts. Now, for tomorrow, it's going to be Monday, September 16th, 2024, at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have the 3 and 6 month bill auctions coming out, which is very minor, nothing too crazy in my personal opinion. But also, I just want to say that for Tuesday, we have some manufacturing numbers, coming out before the market opens, and then some Fed speakers, but everything else is still quite minor. And then Wednesday is when we have the very important FOMC data report coming out. We're going to be watching to see what the Fed announces for interest rates, not to mention their interest rate projections for 1 year out, 2 years out, and beyond. It's going to be very important for the market and the way at which we're moving, so be ready for that. So, in my opinion, most of the data on Monday and Tuesday is quite minor. There are some important things on Tuesday, but like I said before, after that, it's just more minor. And the main time to watch for big volatility was going to be FOMC. So the market's going to be approaching FOMC, getting ready for it over the next couple of days, and we'll see how things end up going from here. So, with that being said, what do we see for the markets? There's not really much coming out right now in terms of our earnings. It's all very, very minor. If you want to play some of these tickers, you guys can see them right here, but most of them are just quite minor. For the Fed, there's currently a 50% chance we get a 50 basis point cut and a 50% chance of getting a 25 basis point cut. There's a 100% chance the Fed does give us some kind of cuts, but we'll see what this leads to. If the Fed gives us a 50 basis point cuts, the market may look at this in a more positive light, and that could cause a very, very big move, possibly to the upside. If they give us a 25 basis point cut, what's going to matter a lot more is also going to be their tonality. So if the Fed starts talking about how they're entering the easing cycle, they're going to continue to anticipate rates are going to continue to drop, and they may have another cut in store. The market may like that as well, and that could lead to even more upside. If not, if the Fed is like a little bit more, I would say careful, and they're very careful with their words, and they remain ambiguous, the market could have a very, very different reaction. So we'll have to see what that leads to. As of right now, there are still a lot of potential upside looking catalysts that are coming out, not to mention nice setups for like Tesla and the others. So we'll see how things go. As far as Tesla goes, they just announced their 100 millionth 4680 battery cell production milestone. And I think this is great news for us. So, across all their factories, we are looking for their 100 millionth 4680 battery cell. This is not too far away from the fact that we just announced 3 months ago their 50 millionth one. So we're looking for a very, very insane amount of growth in their battery cell production. This is a necessary component for their vehicles and then also other products. And I can't wait to see what else this leads to. So Tesla's getting ready for scaling to the upwards direction. They're getting ready for mass scaling, and they're going to need more and more of these battery cells. So I think it's very important to improve the mechanisms to build these, and then they have to incorporate them in their different systems for their cars and etc. So I think it's great news just to see the growth, and I just want to give credit to the entire Tesla team all over the world, their teams all over the world in Giga Texas and China, and the list goes on. I just think that the work that's been put into this is just incredible. So now we're looking for increases in their average outputs. That's going to lead to a bigger output in the Cybertrucks, not to mention their other models. And I think that this is just another amazing milestone that Tesla has achieved. So I just want to give big credit to the entire team, to Elon Musk, everyone that's involved in this, and all their employees. I just think that it's absolutely incredible news. Now, I also want to note that Guggenheim has given Tesla a sell rating, whereas others are giving Tesla buy ratings. So we have very, very mixed views right now over Tesla in the markets. And as far as volume goes, we saw like 76 million volume the last time it came out, which wasn't too bad. Short volume is still kind of flat, so we have to be very patient with this. So as far as Tesla goes, let's talk about these levels. What do I see for the share price? Here's my answer. The answer is I think that we're entering a very, very tough phase for the markets. The S&P 500, for example, is nearing its all-time highs, and we never broke through those, and it's not going to be easy to break through them. So there might be a lot of chop and a lot of consolidation for the markets, and this may translate into Tesla. So for Tesla, make sure you watch this 230 area. It's going to be a very, very tough level. Can we hold above this or not? If we do hold above this, we're looking for basically 232, followed by the 235 area. But remember, we did reject off this many times since mid-August. So it's going to be very tough resistance. If we manage to close above this trend line and the 235 area, we're going to turn a lot more bullish. Otherwise, we're going to likely continue to remain range bound. If we lose 228, we're looking for 225 at the 20 EMA, not to mention the 221s at the 50 EMA. I think what's going to happen to Tesla is we kind of push a little bit towards the 232 area, maybe a little bit higher. Then we come back down to 228, to 228, excuse me. And then we just start to consolidate in this range after that. So I think that's the most likely case where we kind of like pump a little bit, then dump, and just start to see a lot of range bound price action approaching FOMC. So look for Tesla to pop a little bit tomorrow morning into like the 230s, then dip back down. If 228 does not hold, we could be coming back down to the mid 220s, then back up, and just a lot of consolidation is what I'm seeing as the most likely case. For SPY, I'm seeing something very similar. So every time historically, SPY hit 563 to 565, we rejected. Remember that, guys. We rejected every single time we hit this resistance area. So from how I see things, I think that SPY could technically try to get back up above 563 to 565, but then we might see a little bit of a dip after that. We'll be watching 560 as one of our supports, followed by the 558 area, and then 555. So watch those supports very nicely. We could pop a little bit, then come back down and just continue to consolidate in the 560 area. So watch for that very carefully, and we'll see how things end up going. We could pop and then drop, so we'll look for the consolidation phase to perpetuate, and we'll see how things go from here. For ES, I think the same thing is essentially happening. If you want to look at this very carefully, we have 5650 is our resistance zone. We also have support at 5630. If that fails us, we'll be looking for a dip back down towards 5600. But overall, we're just range bound. So I think it's going to happen is we could push a little bit higher towards 5640, maybe a little bit above that. Then we could be looking for a dip back down towards this demand zone at the 5600 area. So I think we're just going to be range bound for now. I think we could push a little bit higher, then come back down and just consolidate approaching the FOMC meeting. That's what I find to be a little bit more favorable. Notice on Nvda, we have a very symmetrical looking structure. The right side is starting to resemble the left side if you draw a line in between. So what's going to likely happen is we enter this like shop phase just like this before we see a big move. Could it be to the upside? Depends on FOMC. But for now, we're looking at a 120's resistance. If that breaks, you're looking for 122. And if we lose 118, we're looking for basically the 115 area followed by the 114s. That's where our 20 and 50 EMAs happen to be. So I think what's going to happen is we might see a little bit of a little pop and drop on Nvidia. Might pop a bit and start dropping to 118. If that does not hold us, we're going down to 115. But then we could rebound and just start to consolidate. So that's what I find to be the most likely case. A little pop and drop and some consolidation. That is more favorable in my personal opinion. For Bitcoin has a high up here around 60,500, a dip and then a lower high that formed. If we dip down, we're looking at 59,400 as support. If that fails us, we're dipping back down to the 59,000 area. If we break past 60,500, we're looking for a big pump for the 62,000 area as well. So I think what's going to happen is we have this tough resistance on Bitcoin. We could try to push a little bit higher before we try to dip, but there might be a retest of the key EMA at 59,400, if not a little bit below that, to start this consolidation phase. For NQ could try to push a little bit more at this 19,600 area, maybe a little bit above that before we start to dip back down. If we lose 19,400, we're looking for 19,260. I think what could happen is we push a little bit higher before we start to dip back down. And then we might just consolidate for now approaching FOMC. So once again, another symmetrical looking structure. Same thing with the QQQ, very symmetrical looking structure. We have this tough resistance around 475 and also 477. So it is possible we try to go a little bit higher. We'll see if 475 holds or not. Could go a little bit higher, then we start dipping back down. If 473 fails us, we're going back down towards this imbalance at 468. So I think what could happen is we kind of pop and then drop back down into like the 470 area, if not 468. Then we start to bounce back up and consolidate around that range. Once again, just like Nvidia, look how symmetrical this looks. So the right side is kind of resembling the left side. I think that's the reason why we might consolidate, maybe see a bit of a dip before we try to bounce again. But look for that dip as soon as tomorrow. For Apple, to me, it looks like it's a little bit more bearish looking just temporarily. We have resistance at 224 to 225, and we have support at 222. If that fails us, we're looking for a dip back down to 220. I think that with this divergence forming, we could be dipping back down to 220, then we bounce back up and just consolidate. So that's the most likely case in my personal opinion. For others out there, such as I'm going to go back to Palantir. Palantir looks a little bit more bullish. If we lose 35, we're looking for 34.25, followed by 33. And if we break past 36, we're looking for a push. I presume we could be pushing up for about the 36 area. We could be pushing for the 36s before we start dipping back down. But look for a little bit more upside potential in Palantir. It still looks bullish to me, and there's no sign of this slowing down just yet. So look for a little bit of a pop before we start dipping, and we'll see how things go from there. For Supermicro, we also have this resistance to watch for around 464, and we have support at 450. If that fails us, we're looking for basically 437. I think we're just range bound for now. So watch and see if 464 breaks for us to push higher, or if we end up losing support. I think that what's going to most likely happen is we have this tough resistance right here, right? Notice that we did reject here many times. So we could see a little bit of a dip back down to the 440 area before we try to bounce back up. So it might just continue to trade sideways. Watch and see what the move happens to be. For Rivian, Rivian is starting to dip right over here. Look at 13.59 as our resistance. If that breaks, we're looking for basically the 13.8 area. If we reject it, we could be dipping back down towards 13.13. So I think that with the double top leg structure forming on Rivian, we might dip a little bit lower towards the lower 13s before we try to bounce. So watch and see if that ends up being the case. For SoFi is attempting to rebound right now. It has a lot of upside potential. I think we could still push a little bit more for 7.8, and we'll see if that breaks or not. So we're going to have to be very patient nonetheless when it comes to the way that this is moving. So watch and see if this ends up leading to a change or not. But in my personal opinion, I think that we remain bullish. I think there's a good chance that we continue this push. So look and see if we can try to break past 7.8 to pump, and then we'll see if we reject or not. So watch and see what the case ends up being. For the IWM, we look more bullish. We're looking for 217.68. We could push a little bit more to 218. Then we could be dipping back down after that. And we'll see how things end up moving from here. If 216 fails us, we could be dipping back down towards the 214 area. We could push a bit to start dipping, so look for some consolidation after that. But with that being said, guys, that's what I'm seeing at least for the IWM. For AMD, we're trying to push higher, but we have this tough resistance to watch for at this 152 area. If that breaks, we could go a little higher to 154. So I wouldn't be surprised if we just try to push a little bit more to 153 to 154 before we try to dip. Then we could be making a move back down towards 148. So it could be a little pop and drop like move. For others out there like ARM, we have 148 as our resistance. If that breaks, we're looking for 152. If we reject it, we could be dipping back down towards 142 as well. So I think we could push a bit and start dipping back down towards about the 142 area. I think ARM could actually reject, so look for a little pop and drop like move and watch and see what the reaction is from here. For other factors out here, we also have Coinbase. Coinbase is just completely range bound as well. We have basically 168 as our resistance. If that breaks, we're looking for the 170s. And if we lose 161, we could be dipping back down. So as of right now, we're just completely range bound. So we'll see how things end up developing from here. I think that because we're range bound, we're just going to continue to be stuck like this. We could push a little bit higher for 168 and maybe try to break through that on the 4-hour time frame. But it really depends if we can break resistance or not. So we still look more bullish for now. Might be looking for a retest of 168, then we'll see if we reject. But we're just range bound, so we'll see which way it goes. For Amazon, we look like we could be dipping a little bit. We're looking for 186 as our support. If that fails us, we're looking for 184, followed by 182. And we'll see if we bounce off that or not. But watch those levels. We have 188 as resistance, followed by 190. I think we could be dipping towards 168, 182, excuse me, guys, 182 to 184, this range right here before we try to bounce. So watch and see if that ends up being the case. For Meta, we're just range bound in the 520 area. We could be dipping back down to 520 before we try to bounce again, but look for a little bit more downside. If we break 530, we remain bullish, but I favor the downside is going to be coming for 520 before we try to consolidate. So that's the most likely case in my personal opinion. For Microsoft, we look more bullish. If you hold above 430, we're looking for a push for 434. If we lose 430, we're looking for a dip back down to 427, followed by 425. Right now, we favor the upside direction. Watch and see if 430 holds. If it holds, we remain bullish for 434. If it does not hold, we're looking for a dip back down to 425. For Google, it's the same thing. We have very tough resistance at this 160 area. If it rejects here, we could be dipping back down to 156 followed by 155. If we break past this, we could be looking for 160. It's possible we kind of pop and then drop back down towards 156. So we'll see what the move ends up being. For DJT, this looks a little bit more bullish. If we could try to break past 18.5, we could be looking for a push. If we end up losing 17.1, we could be dipping back down. We're just forming a nice cup right here, so I think we could push a little bit higher for 18.5, so we'll see what the move ends up being. So be very, very patient nonetheless. For the VIX, we have this big gap to fill down here around this 15 area, and we have this resistance around this 17.55 area to watch for. The VIX could try to rebound a bit as the market dips before it tries to reject and start dumping. So I think this suggests that the market might actually dip a little bit. The 10-year is going to make a big move depending on FOMC. There's not much to say about it right now. And the dollar is holding 101. So if this tries to rebound a bit, maybe the market dips just a little bit as red support on the dollar. If 101 breaks, we could be dipping, but overall the dollar is holding up nicely. So we'll give this the time it needs. With that being said, guys, I want to thank you all so much for listening. As far as the market goes, we're at some tough resistance. Tesla could try to push a little bit higher, but then we might see a lot of consolidation tomorrow, a lot of chop with range bound price action. So that's what I'm anticipating for tomorrow. I'm not really anticipating anything too crazy. So that's what I'm seeing. Tesla needs to break 235 to remain more bullish. If we do break that, there's going to be a big pump coming. But I think that we're just going to be range bound where we push into the 230s and come back down and continue to trade sideways, at least for the time being. I think the next big driver for Tesla is either going to be something in the news that comes out or just FOMC straight up. FOMC for sure is going to be a big market moving event, but we'll see what the news says about Tesla. For now, we're just going to be looking for some consolidation in the markets, so give it the time it needs. And there's going to be a much bigger move once we get FOMC. Thank you for listening, guys. Have a great day. Enjoy your Sunday, and I'll see you guys very soon on the next one. Thanks again, and peace out.